As a business owner, there is nothing better than the feeling of clarity. We make decisions every single day, and the success of the business lies on us. The worst feeling is when you don't know where you're going. And there's one thing that when you get absolutely clear about it, it changes everything, and that is your differentiated value. At New Amethyst, we work with founder-driven service organizations. And so often, as the founder of a growth stage service organization, you get to a certain point. You have a great culture and a great team, and you're growing through referrals because you have an excellent service that you deliver to your clients. You prioritize relationships because that's the engine. What's needed to take it to the next level is having that value that your clients and your customers understand so intimately be understood by the public. Making your differentiated value obvious. But doing the work to get clear on that is no small feat. So often we settle for less and just have a marketing strategy that explains what we do, and we use it as a way to enable sales, but not to truly drive growth for the organization. We've been in business for 7 years, and we finally decided to do the work for ourselves. We went through a rebrand and a reposition, and I'm going to take you through the entire journey. We help businesses position themselves, differentiate their value, and drive growth through their brand. We do this every single day, and we're able to do it quickly. Typically, we can get to a point of clarity for our clients in 3 weeks. It took us 12 months to do it for ourselves. We are on the other side now, and I cannot tell you how good it feels to be clear. It's the feeling that our clients get when they finally arrive, and we now get to have that too. So I want to take you behind the scenes of the whole process so that you can know what it truly looks like to do this work, and so that you can have it for your organization. Clarity breeds momentum. When you are absolutely clear on who you are, what you do, who you serve, and what your unique value is, when everyone on your team can say it, and when people get it so immediately that strangers could refer you, there is nothing that can stop you. Clarity is the foundation for everything else. When you have it, you can run. So stick around for the next 20 minutes because you are going to get the key steps and all of the moments that it takes to get you to the other side. We were too close to our work to see that what was already there was what needed to be amplified. It's very difficult, almost near impossible, to read the label from inside the jar. Proximity is the obstacle. You need someone outside the jar to see what you can't see from where you're sitting. Whether that's an expert or someone in your circle, you need to get feedback from others and help them to see yourself. When I launched this company in 2018, we were a video production company. That was our positioning. It was true, but it was incomplete. The real work was always happening before the camera turned on. We coached founders on how to show up, asking questions no one was asking, shaping their stories and the direction of their brand. What everyone else called pre-production, we made the center of our entire process. Some of our clients would tell us that they got the value of their entire contract before we even turned on a camera. That was the first sign that we weren't articulating the full value of our work. That's a problem a lot of service businesses have. The thing that makes you irreplaceable isn't visible in the way that you describe what you do. We began to add more services over time because we wanted to drive results for our clients. It was really clear we couldn't call ourselves a video production company anymore. And at the end of 2024, we repositioned ourselves as a video marketing agency and really leaned into the new service that we had added, which was data analytics, performance-driven marketing using video. We leaned so hard into it though that we forgot about all the things that made us different in the first place and that were the heart of our brand. And it showed up in our sales and in our marketing. We were not as effective in our sales in that period. Our language started to center around something that actually wasn't the heart of the way we work. And we were attracting people who cared about the thing that we were centering, but didn't care about the thing that made us different in the first place. We weren't resonating in the same way that we normally would. The real turning point came for us in March of 2025. I was invited to speak at a professional networking group, and they asked me not to talk about my expertise, but to share my personal story.
If I was asked to tell this story, even to a stranger one-on-one a few years ago, I probably would have not been able to stay present sharing that story. And so for me, it's like I'm so celebratory and have this opportunity with you, Erin, to share in a group because that's what healing is all about. And it's a victory for me.
Before I started this business, I spent 2 years taking care of someone I loved who was struggling with addiction. And I had never spoken about this in public before. What I realized in the telling of it was the thing that inspired her to get sober was that she felt seen by me. And the thing that gave me the courage to start my business was that I felt seen by her. You can hear that full story in another video, but that experience changed the trajectory of my life. What I hadn't done yet was connect that story all the way through to the work that we do every day. When I actually went up and shared it with others, something clicked for me. I had been hiding, and the act of showing up as a visible leader, telling my full story out loud is what caused me to get clear. I walked out of that talk feeling seen, fully, clearly through my own brand story, and I realized that being seen wasn't just a feeling, it was the heart of everything. It connected our marketing, our client experiences, the outcome for the founder, and it's the thing that we had always done, we just hadn't named it. That's when I knew we couldn't call ourselves a video marketing agency anymore. What we were doing was deeper than that. It was more human, and for the first time I had words to say why. Your brand has to match the depth of your work. If the transformation you create isn't visible in how you describe what you do, you will keep attracting clients who want the surface version of what you offer. Finally inspired to take action and do the deep work, in May I scheduled a day retreat for myself, dedicated time to do our repositioning. In that session, I discovered a positioning framework from a book called Obviously Awesome by April Dunford. She specializes in supporting SaaS companies, but we were able to adapt her method for a service business. It totally changed the way we approached the positioning process. So the premise is, instead of starting with who you think your customer is and the value that you provide to them to get to your differentiator, you start first with what you do that nobody else does and reverse engineer from there. So you list your unique attributes, distill them into your top differentiated values, and then ask who cares a lot about all of these. Not just one of them, all of them, and that is your dream customer. When you find out who they are and commit to focusing on them, your ability to communicate increases exponentially because you can position all of your unique value in a way that is obviously awesome, specifically to them. When I ran this process on our own brand, I mapped out everything that we actually do and how it's different. We have message clarity coaching, end-to-end distribution, working with both the organizational brand and the personal brand of the key leaders, coaching and transformational experiences for those visible leaders, and excavating the stories from the company that are going to drive growth. The full combination of those things were our differentiated benefits or features of our service. Combining all of those features into a top 3 list of our differentiated values was no small feat. That's where most businesses get stuck. They stay explaining their services and they don't truly get to the language that articulates the why for their customer. So that actually took us some time. We didn't get fully clear on how to articulate that in this session, but what became clear in the next step was our dream customer. The dream customer that we realized was for us was founder-driven service organizations. The culture of their company is their differentiator, and these are all things that are very difficult to describe that could benefit from our process. It didn't all come together in that one session. This is genuinely a group activity, so I brought it to the team. And that summer, we spent months digging into our why, testing language, trying to get to the one thing we could say that makes someone immediately think of who they would refer to us. One insight that came out of that season was we were explaining our value at a level 8 out of 10. Most people only need a level 2 understanding to say yes. The simpler you get, the faster people can refer you. That same summer, I also presented our framework to our advisory board. And one of the members of the advisory board stopped me mid-presentation. He said, "You're still leading with video and personal brand and all these other services you offer. That's making you sound like you have a smaller impact than you do. Come at the brand level, the 10,000-foot view, and then everything else can live underneath it. That's where the real value is."
What you do can drive everything else they do. Then you become an invaluable asset.
That was the moment we stopped undervaluing our work. And we rebuilt our positioning and our offer structure around that. Within a month, we were able to launch a new offer architecture, and we sold 3 packages in just 2 weeks. That was so validating, and we knew that we were on the right track because the people who closed those deals were all our dream customer. So we got validation in our sales, but the real clarity came out of conversations, just out in the real world. And this is something that I want to be specific about because it's a practice that I encourage all founders and businesses to do and a lot skip. Test your messaging live, not just on paper. I started taking our language everywhere, one-on-one coffees, networking events, casual conversations. We weren't pitching, just talking, and seeing how people responded naturally. The first networking event that I went to, I was really going to see some people that I knew, and even in that space, in that environment, I was like tripping over my words. I found myself wanting to just say the old thing that I would always say, and I had to stop myself and force myself to try on the new language and test it and experience it. Here's the insight. If someone immediately thinks of a specific person who could use your work while you're sharing what you do, that's when you've reached clear enough language. If they're blank or if they can't come up with anyone, you're still explaining, because we know whoever you talk to in the business world probably knows 10 people that you could help. By the fall, I wanted outside eyes from people that I trusted. For example, I sat down with Casey, a friend of mine, fellow business owner, who owns a marketing agency further along in the growth journey. She validated the direction, which was huge, and she started to think of referrals, which again, is a sign we're on the right track. She also gave us some critical feedback that was so helpful. She told us our visual brand still read as boutique, and if we wanted to elevate at the level of brand strategy, our identity needed to match that. She also asked, have you ever thought about renaming? I was not ready for that conversation, so put it aside for a while. And then November happened. We were sponsoring a large business gala. 300 people were in the room, and the MC introduced our new language for the first time live, and it didn't land. People were not leaning in, and it's because the way we were describing our approach still needed explanation. It was a humbling moment. I realized that even though we were pointing to our differentiated value, we were still describing the mechanism of how we work instead of the outcome. There's a big difference between those two things. Getting to that point for founders is so difficult. It's so difficult to do it, especially when you're in it. So I went home and did a deep dive and worked on it again for 2 straight days. And what came back was what had started in March. Be seen, and the feeling of being seen leading you to feel unstoppable. So we landed on unstoppable brand, be seen, and I tested both everywhere. And whenever I said unstoppable in the context of our approach, people leaned in. They resonated with it because what we do is human and experiential, and it leads to a feeling, not just a marketing outcome. In January of 2026, my operations assistant, Rose, and I went on a 5-day retreat to North Carolina. And we had one job, get to the bottom of everything and put out our plan for how we were going to launch this new brand positioning. We had sticky notes everywhere, and we thought about how is this brand gonna show up? And somewhere in the retreat, the decision that had been hovering finally landed. We were going to need to rename. And I want to be honest about what that felt like, because I think it's something that comes up for a lot of founders who are working on evolving their business. What you build is personal. It's your baby, and letting go of parts of it, even when it's the strategic move, is not just a business decision, it is an emotional decision. There can be grief in letting go, and that's what happened for me. Dragonfly carried a whole chapter of my life. What it cost me to start the business, what I had hoped it would become, and who I was at that time. The day it hit that the decision would need to be made, I got really tired and I told Rose, I'm sorry, I actually just need to go take a nap right now. I need to process. In that time, I was able to look back and get closure on the journey that I've been on, and it was actually so healing. It gave me permission to close this chapter with gratitude and start the next one with clarity. That release was so profound, and I didn't realize that I even needed it. When you make a change that's deep in how you represent your business, there's going to be moments where you resist it. Moments where you feel emotional about the change. It may not be as intense as it was for me, but the work you do is personal. That's why we include coaching and personal work into our creative process at New Amethyst, is because it comes with the territory. And so I'm glad that I knew that it was coming and that I noticed what it was and I was able to deal with it because I had the tools to move forward. If you're doing this work for yourself, I encourage you to create enough space to integrate the change. Don't just rush through the emotional part and get to the strategic part, because they happen together. So we had our language, we knew we needed to change the name, we didn't have the name yet. That would come in February. We did a lot of naming exercises. I have a linguistics background, so I mapped out phonetic compositions, created word lists, words connected to the outcome we provide, words that felt like an extension of Dragonfly, fire words because my name is Ember and I thought that was kind of fun. Nothing was really landing though, and this is something we talk about with our clients. We cannot cause inspiration. We can't ever tell ourselves, oh, I'm gonna be inspired at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday. The name's gonna come to me at this hour. What we can do though is create the conditions for it. And that includes slowing down, creating space, being present to let the creativity bubble up rather than trying to force an outcome. In the commitment to that work and allowing the name to arrive, I sat and I waited, and the name actually came inside of a dream. And it was a dream I didn't understand at first. It contained a mountain and an amethyst. My grandma, who's my spiritual mentor, said, "It's not about the mountain. Amethyst, that's your name." I resisted it. We are not a crystal company. She said, "Think about the power of the amethyst and where it comes from. Journal with it, sit with it for 3 days." So I did. I journaled, I sat quietly. I didn't get outside input, I just sat with it. And on the 3rd day, New Amethyst arrived. The whole story followed. We're talking about the heat and the pressure that it takes to create something beautiful that lasts. A brand that's forged in fire, built to last, seen for what it truly is. That's the work that we do, and it's always been us. And as soon as all that clicked, it was the final act of clarity that I needed to run. I wrote the entire positioning canvas, all of our messaging in a single sitting. Everything finally made sense inside of the new context. It took a full year to arrive here, and 7 years of doing the work for our clients before we could actually do it for ourselves. That's an outcome of being too close to the thing. Proximity sometimes is the enemy of clarity, and it's really hard to read that label from inside the jar. But what's important to remember is the clarity that you need is already living inside your organization. Your stories, your differentiated value, the thing that makes your work genuinely irreplaceable, it's there. It just hasn't been excavated yet. When you choose to work with someone to do this, make sure that they truly see you. Because if they put another strategy or marketing vernacular on top of what you do, you're going to have more tactics and put more effort into something that doesn't land in the way it should. One more thing. This is the thing I wish someone had said to me. Getting clear on our messaging and our positioning was on my to-do list in my project management tool for 3 years. It kept getting pushed back. Sitting there overdue, okay, we're gonna do this next quarter. And every month it sat there, we were leaving opportunity on the table. Every month you don't have a clear, crystallized brand, you're still explaining yourself on every sales call instead of walking in as the obvious choice. The story isn't transferable to your team, and so then it still relies on the founder and the founder's reputation, and your referral network has a ceiling because the brand isn't doing the work to drive growth. None of this changes on its own. But doing that deep work and getting to the point where you know you're clear, that's where you run. That's where you get the momentum. My recommendation is take the time to do this work and do it with someone who sees you. And it doesn't have to take 12 months. With our clients, we literally get there in a matter of a few weeks. But take the time to do this work because the impact of it compounds. But even though it took 12 months for us, and really 7 years, it was so worth the wait. Because when you have clarity on where you're going, clarity on how to communicate, who you are and why what you do matters, you literally feel unstoppable. And that's why I'm so excited to be sharing the behind the scenes of our process with you so that you can have this feeling too. This is the beginning of our YouTube channel, and our goal is to provide a high level of value to you and show you what the process looks like to differentiate your service business so that you can grow and make the impact you're here to make. And the way that you can help us bring this content to you and others like you is to subscribe. So I look forward to supporting you on your journey of growth and helping the uniqueness inside of your organization be seen.